Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Homage to the Blessed One, the Worthy One, the Supremely Enlightened One. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Fellow monks, meritorious lay disciples, today we have this excellent opportunity to come together as disciples of a fully enlightened Buddha and practice his teachings very well. We're very fortunate to have a great teacher like this, who's done very excellent research, investigated very well the nature of this round of samsara, investigated the five aggregates, investigated the six sense bases, discovered this excellent dependent origination, discovered the Four Noble Truths, the Noble Eightfold Path. We're very fortunate to have such an excellent teacher who did this noble investigation, trying to understand the nature of this world in a very skillful way. And because of that, we can follow his instructions very happily, very peacefully. We can avoid dangers, and we can experience results from following his instructions. In the time of the Supreme Buddha, there were people who tried to do different kinds of research to investigate the nature of this world. But their research was not so noble, not so skillful, because people don't understand the proper way to understand this world, to see the nature of reality. They think that with our ordinary eyes, with our ordinary ears, we can understand the deepest nature of reality. But the Blessed One said that this isn't the way that we can truly see the nature of reality, right? So, for example, if we do bad things with our body, with our speech, with our mind, say we steal something, we can think to ourselves, well, I haven't gotten caught yet, so there must not be any bad results. Maybe I'll live my whole life and never get caught. No one saw me steal this thing, so there's no way I'll ever get caught. I'll never have to experience bad results from this action. And so someone doing ordinary research, thinking just with an ordinary mind, a corrupted mind, might come to the conclusion, if you can steal something and no one catches you, then you're safe. Then there's no bad results to be experienced. But the Blessed One taught us very clearly. He was able to see, using his vast knowledge, that there's always results to be had from these bad actions. Even if we don't see the results in this life, we'll have to experience them, either in the next life or some future life. So because of that, we depend on the knowledge of our great teacher, the Supreme Buddha, until we're able to purify our own minds, so we can see for ourselves this arising, this passing away, until we can see for ourselves the workings of karma, the results of actions, both good and bad. So today, we'll get to learn about someone who lived in the time of the Supreme Buddha, who did his own kind of research and wasn't very successful at understanding this reality, let alone putting an end to the round of samsara. So today, we'll listen to a very beautiful sutta called the Payasi Sutta in the Digha Nikaya. So this sutta is named after a prince named Payasi. So what was his name? Payasi, yes. So at one time, there was a monk who was traveling around, a venerable Arahant monk, named Bhante Kumara Kassapa. He was traveling with a large group of monks, 500 monks. And he came to this city where Prince Payasi was living. And this Venerable Kumara Kassapa was teaching people the Dhamma. He was teaching people about the Blessed One's noble research, the truths that the Supreme Buddha had discovered. Especially, he was teaching about the results of actions, that when we do bad things, we get bad results. When we do good things, then we experience good results, either in this life or future lives. He was teaching that there are other worlds that we can't see for ourselves, heavenly realms, hell realms, ghost realms, that we're not able to see with our own eyes. And that there are beings who are spontaneously born. So what kind of beings are spontaneously reborn? So in the human world, most human beings are not spontaneously reborn. What does it mean to be spontaneously reborn? It means all of a sudden they come into existence, right? Through special causes and conditions. They don't have to take birth in their mother's womb, right? So in the human world, most human beings are born coming from the mother's womb. There are a few human beings who are born spontaneously, but for the most part, they come to birth through entering the mother's womb. But in the heavenly realm, female devas don't have to be pregnant, right? That's one of the nice things about the heavenly realm. That's what makes it such a heavenly realm. And in the hell realms, right? There's enough suffering already. No one has to go through pregnancy to experience suffering in the hell realms. Beings are just born there spontaneously. So this Prince Payasi, he had developed wrong views. He must have been associating with bad friends who also held these views. And so he believed very firmly that there's no other worlds, that if he can't see them, he doesn't believe. He doesn't believe that they exist, that there are no beings that are spontaneously reborn, and that there's no results of good and bad action. So the Blessed One taught that these are very, very bad views to have, very dangerous views to have. Because when we believe that there's no results of good and bad action, then if we have the opportunity, we'll do whatever suits our mind at that time. We can do many, many bad things if we're not concerned about the consequences. Also, the Blessed One taught us very clearly about these other destinations, the heavenly realms, the hell realms, the ghost realms, the animal realm. But this prince, he held on to these wrong views very strongly. So he noticed that people were going to see this Venerable Kumara Kassapa in great numbers. He could look out from his palace and see crowds headed out into the forest. And so he asked, who's out there? What's going on? Why is everyone going into the forest? And people said, oh, Prince, there's an Arahant monk here living in the forest. And he's teaching us the Blessed One's Dhamma. He's teaching us about right view, that there are other worlds, there are beings who are spontaneously reborn, and that there's results from good and bad actions. So when someone who's a disciple of the Buddha, the Supreme Buddha, hears about these things, their mind becomes very happy, right? They like to listen to the Dhamma. But someone who holds wrong views, when they hear these things, do they become happy or unhappy? Very unhappy, right? They get very mad. So that's what happened to this Prince Payasi. He said, these foolish people, they're going to listen to all these wrong views. He thought that this monk was teaching wrong views. And so he decided that he was going to try and put a stop to it. So not only did he hold wrong views himself, but he wanted to encourage other people to have wrong views. So at the very least, if we have wrong views, we need to keep our mouths shut, right? We need to not make other people suffer as well. But this prince, he decided that he was going to set this monk straight, to explain to this monk about the research that he had done, right? how he decided that there are no spontaneously born beings, there are no other worlds, and there's no results of good and bad action. So the prince told these people, wait, I'll come along with you. I'll come along with you, and I'll set this monk straight. So Prince Payasi went to the Venerable Kumara Kassapa. He was respectful, he paid homage, he sat to one side. And then he declared to the Venerable Arahant monk, these are my views. I say that there's no other worlds. I say that there's no beings who are reborn spontaneously, that there's no results of good and bad action. So the Venerable Kassapa said, I don't know about these views. I've never heard these views before. So let me ask you some questions. Let's try and get things straightened out here. And he asked the prince the first question. He says, Prince, tell me, these devas, Chandima and Surya, are they heavenly beings or are they human beings? Do they live in this world or do they live in another world? And Prince Payasi said, yes, those aren't human beings. They're devas, and they don't live in this world. They live on the sun, they live on the moon, they live in other worlds. So right away the prince had to confess, yes, I know that there's these other beings. And that they don't live in this world, but they live in another world. And so the Venerable Arahant monk says, well, look, this is exactly why you should give up these views, that there are no other worlds. There's no results of good and bad action, no being spontaneously reborn. But Prince Payasi doesn't give in. He says, no, I still believe this, that there aren't other beings born spontaneously, that there aren't these other worlds. So then Venerable Kassapa says, well, what's your reason? Why do you believe this? Why don't you believe in these results of good and bad actions? And so Prince Payasi says, well, I've done some research. I've done some research of my own. And when we listen to this research, we can think, is this noble research? Is this good research, or is this bad research? So this is what he did. He said, I have friends who did many bad things. They did bad things with their body, with their speech, with their mind. They stole things. They killed living beings. They committed sexual misconduct. They used all sorts of terrible speech. They told lies. They used harsh speech. They used divisive speech, trying to break up people's friendships. They used useless speech. They gossiped about people, spent their time talking about pointless things. They were very greedy. They were very angry at people. They did all sorts of things based on this greed, based on this anger, and they held many sorts of wrong views. So whenever any of them become sick, become very ill, and they're going to die very soon, I go to them and I say, friends, you've done many bad things. Really, you've lived a horrible life. So I need your help. There are wise people who say that when someone does bad things with their body, with their speech, with their mind, then they're reborn in a bad destination, in a bad place, maybe even in hell. So I need your help. If there is a hell, if people go to hell because they've done bad things, you're going there. This is definitely happening to you. Obviously, you've done terrible things. So, when you're reborn in hell, I need you to take a look around, see what it's like, and then come back and tell me all about it. And if you can't come back, then send a messenger. And I trust you. I trust you. Whatever you say, I'll believe it, just as if I'd seen it with my own eyes. And they agree, and then they die. But I wait, and they don't come back the next day. They don't come back the day after. They don't come back a week later. They never come back. So for that reason, I'm sure that there's no hell. There's no results of these bad actions that these people did. So what do you think? Noble research or bad research? Yes. So the Venerable Kassapa says to the prince, okay, well, let me ask you a question. Let me tell you a story. Suppose there's a man in your city who's a thief, and he gets caught in the act. You're absolutely sure that he's committed theft. He's stolen something. What would you do to this man? And the prince says, well, we'd throw him in prison, and then we would have him killed. We'd take him to the south of the city, to the sound of a loud drum, and then we would cut off his head. So the Venerable Kassapa says, okay, well, tell me, as he was being taken to the outside of the city, being led off to have his head cut off, if he were to say to the guards that were watching him, sirs, please, let me go visit my family this afternoon. I need to say goodbye to my children. I have some business I need to finish up. I want to give my family some instructions. And then as soon as I'm done, I'll come right back. What do you think, Prince? Would those guards let him run back and visit his family? And the prince says, no. They would tell him to be quiet, and then they would cut off his head, just like that. So the Venerable Bhante asks him, so what do you think, Prince? If even in this human realm, these guards wouldn't let go of a prisoner, do you think someone being born in the hell realms would be able to say to those guardians of hell, oh, sirs, I have this friend, Prince Payasi, and I need to go give him a message, right? Please let me go back to the human world for just a little bit, maybe just a day, and then I'll come right back to hell. Do you think that they would let him go? And he says, no, surely not. So the Venerable Bhante says, well, for this reason, you need to understand your research is bad, right? You don't know how to do proper research. So abandon these wrong views that you have. But the prince says, no, I'm not ready to give up my views. And the Venerable Bhante asks him, well, do you have any more reasons? What other research have you done? And the prince says, yes, I've done some other research. I have other friends who are very good people. They keep the precepts. They don't kill, they don't steal, they don't commit sexual misconduct, they don't lie, they don't use bad speech, they don't yell at people, they don't spend their time talking about pointless things. They have a very generous mind. They have a very happy mind. They think good thoughts about people. They cultivate loving kindness. And they hold right view. So when these friends are about to die, I go to them and I say, good friends, you're very good people. You've done very good things with your body, speech, and mind. Surely, if there's a place, if there's a good destination, if there are good results of actions, if there's good results of good actions, then for sure you're going to experience them. So please, when you pass away and you're reborn in a heavenly realm, take a look around and come back and explain to me what you've seen. Explain to me the good results of the good actions that you've done. And in that way, I'll believe, just as if I had seen it with my own eyes. But Bhante, these friends of mine, they pass away and I never see them again. They never come back to give me a message. So because of that reason, I don't think that there's another world. I don't think that they're being spontaneously born, and I don't think that there's results of good and bad action. So then Kumara Kassapa says to him, well, let me tell you another story, Prince. Suppose there was a man, a good man, who was walking along in the forest outside of a village, and he fell into a cesspit. So do you know what a cesspit is? Cesspit? So nowadays we put our cesspits underground. When you flush the toilet, all the things that you flush down go into a cesspit. Unfortunately, here they're underground. But in India at that time, they were just open pits. So you had to be very careful where you walked. Otherwise, you might fall into one of these pits full of excrement. So that's what happened to this person. He fell right in a pit of dung, human excrement. Completely covered, head to toe. So this man would come out of the pit, and you would see him, and you would want to help him. So you would make him stand still, and you would pour water over him, again and again. And then you would scrub him well with clay. After he was completely scrubbed clean, then you'd cover him with perfume. You'd put fresh, clean clothing on him, and you'd give him a nice couch to sit in your palace, and servants to look after him. And you would give him all the sensual pleasures that you could for him to experience. So what do you think, Prince? After this person has been cleaned up, bathed, put into clean clothes, sat on a nice couch, taken care of in many, many ways, do you think that he would right away want to go and jump back into that cesspit? And the prince says, no, probably not. No, he wouldn't, certainly not. And the Venerable Bhante says, in the very same way, Prince, for these devas, when they're reborn in the heavenly realm, they look back at this human realm like it's a cesspit, because people are very stinky, right? For devas think that human beings are very smelly, right? They know right away the nature of our body. And they see this human world just like it was a cesspit, and they're very happy to have gotten out of it. So, do you think that they would want to run right back here and talk to you in this cesspit of the human world? And he says no. The prince confesses no, they wouldn't. The Venerable Bhante gave him another example, another reason. He says, there's this heaven called the realm of the 33 gods. And in that heaven, the lifespan is very long. The days are very long. One day in that heavenly realm is like 100 years in the human realm. And in that heavenly realm, they have months with 30 days, and they have years with 12 months. And of those kind of years, they live for 1,000 years. So they have a very long lifespan. Suppose your friends were reborn in this realm of the 33. They might look around and say, wow, look at all this that we have to enjoy, right? All these sensual pleasures. I do have this friend that I need to go talk to. I'll talk to him tomorrow. I'll go back tomorrow. What do you think, Prince? Would you be here waiting for them when they had waited till tomorrow in the heavenly realm? He says, no. 100 years would have passed, even just in that one day in the heavenly realm. And so the Venerable Bhante says, in the same way, think about it. You can't expect them to come back right away. Right? They're going to enjoy those sensual pleasures for at least a day before they come back to this cesspit. And by the time they come back, you'll be long gone. You and your whole family will have passed away. And the prince says, that's fine, but I don't believe in this realm of the 33. Who told you that there's this heaven called the realm of the 33? I can't see it myself. I don't believe in it. Right? So he keeps arguing with this Bhante. But the Venerable Kumara Kassapa is very patient, right? He must be able to see something in this prince, that he knows that he'll eventually be able to give up his wrong views. So he says to the prince, okay, let me tell you another story. Suppose there's someone who's blind, and they've been blind their whole lives. They can't see different colors. They can't see different shapes. They can't see mountains and valleys. They can't see the sun, and they can't see the moon. Suppose this person who couldn't see these things said, I can't see colors, I can't see shapes, I can't see high places, I can't see low places, I can't see the sun, I can't see the moon. And because of that, these things don't exist. What do you think, Prince? Would this person be speaking correctly or incorrectly? And the prince says, they would be speaking incorrectly, because of course there are different colors, there are different shapes. There are high places, low places, there's the sun, and there's the moon. So just because they can't see them doesn't mean that they don't exist. So the Venerable Bhante says, in the very same way, Prince, you don't have the right kind of vision, you don't have the right kind of knowledge to see the realm of the 33. These realms, they can't be seen in the way that you think. They can't be seen with the ordinary eyes. The Venerable Bhante says, Prince, those ascetics and Brahmins who seek in the jungle thickets and in the recesses of the forest for a resting place that is quiet with little noise, they stay there unwearied, ardent, restrained, purifying the divine eye. So this is one of the knowledges that the Supreme Buddha gained on the night of his enlightenment. The ability to see these other realms. That this is the way you see the realm of the 33. Not through the ordinary eye. So has this prince tried at all to purify his mind? No. He's doing the wrong kind of research. He hasn't gone to the forest. Right? He hasn't tried to rid his mind of greed, hatred, and delusion. So, with his ordinary eye, he'll never be able to see the realm of the 33, the Tusita Devaloka, none of these heavenly realms. So the Venerable Bhante explains to him, you're doing research in the wrong way. This isn't the right way to go about doing this. But still, Prince Payasi, he doesn't give in. He says, no, I still don't believe. So the Venerable Bhante asks him, well, are there any other reasons? What other things do you have in your mind? What other wrong views are you holding? And the prince says, well, I know that there are these recluses, these ascetics, who live in the forest, who do good things with their body, with their speech, with their mind. They're working very diligently to purify their mind. And they say that there's good results to be had from doing these wholesome things. So if these monks, if these Brahmins, these recluses, if they're so sure that there's good results to be had from these good actions that they're doing, if they're so sure that there's a heavenly realm to be reborn into, then it would make sense for them to jump off of a cliff or to slit their own throats and right away be reborn in the heavenly realm. Right? If it's so good, if they're so sure that there's good results to be had, why don't they kill themselves and go right to the heavenly realm? This prince didn't have very good friends, did he? He couldn't have been associating with very wise people. So, again, the Venerable Bhante very patiently says, okay, let me give you another example, another story. Maybe you can understand this way. He says, at one time there was a Brahmin, and he had 2 wives, and one wife had a child, a boy about 14 years old. And his other wife was pregnant. And while his other wife was still pregnant, this Brahmin passed away. This Brahmin died. So the young son of the first wife went to the second wife and said, Mother, my father gave me the whole of his wealth. He gave all his wealth to me. So let me have it. Let me have all of the wealth of this household. But the second wife said, no, I'm pregnant, right? I may have a son, and if he's born, then he should get half of the wealth. But the young son who was already born said, no, I want the money now, right? And she kept saying, no, wait until this child is born, and then we'll see if it's a boy, then he'll get half of the wealth. But still, the son kept coming to her. And so frustrated, she went inside, she took a knife, she cut open her belly so she could see if this was a boy or a girl. So in doing so, not only did she lose the child in her womb, she lost her own life and all of this wealth along with it. So the Venerable Bhante says, in the same way, you seek to get the results of something in the wrong way, just like this woman tried to find out the answer in the wrong way. You're trying to get results in the wrong way, thinking that these monks and Brahmins should put an end to their lives. And why is it that they continue to live? Because they know that they're doing a very wholesome thing with their lives, that their life is beneficial to both themselves and to other people. Their life is profitable to those ascetics and Brahmins. For the longer such moral and well-conducted ascetics and Brahmins remain alive, the greater the merit that they create. They practice for the welfare of the many, for the happiness of the many, out of compassion for the world, for the profit and benefit of devas and humans. So these Brahmins and ascetics that live in the forest doing good things, they know that they're doing good work right now, and the more good actions they perform, the better results they'll experience in the future. So they don't have any urgency to put an end to this life. So the Venerable Bhante says, so, Prince, will you give up your wrong views? And he says, no. So the Bhante says, okay, what other reasons do you have? What other research have you done? And now we get to learn about some very strange research that this prince did. You can see he held very bad views. He said, Venerable Bhante, this is something that I've done. One time, we had a thief, someone who we were going to kill. He was caught in the act. And so they brought him to me for me to sentence him, to give him punishment. So I said, okay, put this man in a big jar and seal the top with a wet cloth. Put a lid on it and put him in an oven. Bake this pot. And then when you're sure that he's dead, bring the pot to me and we'll open up the lid and we'll look very carefully when we open up that lid and we'll see his soul coming out of the pot. And we did that, but Bhante, there was no soul that came out of that pot. Right? This is the kind of research that I did. Bhante said, no. Let me give you another story. Let me ask you another question. So when you're sleeping and you have a dream, don't you see lovely places, lovely forests, lovely ponds, that aren't in the palace where you are? And he says, yes, I do. And the Bhante asks him, so these people that are watching you, the guards, the women of the palace that are around you, do they see your soul coming and going to enjoy these parks, these ponds? And he says, no, they've never mentioned that to me. They don't see my soul coming and going. So the Bhante says, so how can you expect, if they can't even see your soul coming and going when you're alive, how can you expect to see this man's soul coming and going from this pot after you've killed him? Please, Prince, give up your wrong views. And the prince says, no, not yet. So the Venerable Bhante asks him, so have you done any other research? Do you have any other reasons? And the prince says yes. He says, there's been a case where we had a thief who was caught in the act, and it was my job to punish him. So I said, weigh this man when he's alive, and then strangle him, then kill him, and then weigh him again. And they do so. Bhante, as long as he was alive, he was lighter, softer, and more flexible. But when he was dead, he was heavier, stiffer, and more inflexible. And that, Reverend Kassapa, is my reason for maintaining that there's no other world, no beings who are spontaneously reborn, no results of good and bad actions. So the Venerable Bhante says, okay, let me give you another story. Suppose a man weighed an iron ball that had been heated all day, that was glowing, burning, blazing, and he would weigh it again. So he weighed this iron ball when it was hot, and then he weighed it when it was cool. At which time would it be lighter, softer, and more flexible? When it was hot, burning, and glowing, or when it was cold and extinguished? So when you heat iron, it becomes very soft, right? Just like clay. So would it be softer when it was hot, or softer when it was cold? Of course, it would be softer when it was hot. And then the prince says, Reverend Kassapa, when that ball of iron is hot, burning, and glowing, with the elements of fire and air, then it is lighter, softer, and more flexible. When without those elements it has grown cold and gone out, it is heavier, stiffer, and more inflexible. And the Venerable Kumara Kassapa says, well then, Prince, it is just the same with the body. When it has life, heat, and consciousness, it is lighter, softer, and more flexible. But when it is deprived of life, heat, and consciousness, it is heavier, stiffer, and more inflexible. He says, for this reason, Prince, you should know that your research is not good, right? That you should give up these wrong views that you have. So did the Supreme Buddha, when he was doing his noble research, did he have to kill living beings, right, to understand the nature of these six faculties, nature of the five aggregates? No. He was doing noble research. But the prince, he says, no, Bhante, still, I won't give up my wrong views. So then the Bhante asks him, so do you have any other reasons? What else have you done? And the prince says, okay, another time there was a thief, and they brought him to me to be punished. And I said, kill this man slowly. Kill him without wounding his skin, the outer skin, the inner skin, the flesh, the sinews, or the bones. And they follow my instructions. And I tell them, okay, when he's half dead, when he's almost dead, lay him on his side, and let's see if we can find his soul escaping from his body. So they do that, and they can't see it. And they stand him on his feet. They can't see it. They lay him on his other side, on his head. They can't see the soul leaving his body. They hit him with their fists. They hit him with stones, with sticks, with swords. Still, they can't see any soul leaving his body. They shake him this way and that. But still, they don't see his soul coming out. Then the prince says, even though he has eyes, he can't see forms. Even though he has ears, he can't hear sounds. Even though he has a nose, he can't smell odors. He has a tongue, but he can't taste flavors. He has a body, but he can't feel things. And this is why I believe that there are no beings who are spontaneously reborn, that there's no other world, that there's no results of good and bad action. And the Venerable Kumara Kassapa says, okay, Prince, you're not doing this correctly. Let me give you another story. He says, suppose, Prince, there's a trumpeter, someone who plays a musical instrument, a trumpet, and he comes to a village, and he stands outside this village and he plays his trumpet. He sits down and he puts his trumpet down next to him. And the people in that village heard this sound, and so they come out and they see. And they ask him, so what was that sound? We've never heard anything like that. It was an excellent sound. Where did that sound come from? And he would say, "Oh, it came from my trumpet." And so they would take that trumpet and they put it out in the road and they lay it on its side and they say, "Mr. Trumpet, speak to us." Does the trumpet speak? No. So they stand it up on its end. They say, "Mr. Trumpet, speak to us, please." Nothing. They put it on its other side. They put it on its top. "Speak, speak." It says nothing. They pound on it. They hit it with sticks. They do everything they can to hit it, to shake it, to roll it all around. "Speak, speak." Does it ever say anything that way? No. It never makes a sound. The trumpeter saw this, and he thought, "These foolish people, they don't understand how a trumpet works." So he picked it up, he blew on his trumpet 3 times, and he walked away. And then as they watched him, they thought to themselves, "It seems that when the trumpet is accompanied by a man, by effort, and by the wind, then it makes a noise. But when it is not accompanied by a man, by effort, and by the wind, then it makes no sound." And the Venerable Bhante said, "In the same way, Prince, when this body has life, heat, and consciousness, then it goes and comes back, stands and sits and lies down, sees things with its eyes, hears things with its ears, smells things with its nose, tastes with its tongue, feels with its body, and knows mental objects with its mind. But when it has no life, heat, or consciousness, it does none of these things." So this is the noble research that the Blessed One did. Right? We can have we can have forms, but if there's no eye consciousness, then there'll be no meeting of these 3 things. If there's sounds in the ear, but there's no ear consciousness, then there won't be any contact with those sounds in the mind. There won't be any feelings that arise because of those contacts. So you need to have all of those things for the faculties to work correctly. So in this way, the Venerable Bhante explains to the prince how he's doing his research in a wrong way, just like those people that tried to make this trumpet sound by turning it all around, turning it this way and that. So he says, "Prince, please give up your wrong views. Do you give in? Do you give up your wrong views?" And the prince says, "No, Bhante, I don't. Still, I don't give up my wrong views." So again, the prince explains what he does to a prisoner, that he does these terrible things trying to see his soul coming out, his soul emerging as he dies. And then the Venerable Bhante says, "Okay, let me tell you another story to try and help you explain how your research is incorrect. You're going about things in the wrong way." He said once there was a Brahmin living in the forest. And one day he happened to find a small baby lying abandoned in the forest. So he took this baby and he raised it as his own son. And one day, when the child was older, this fire worshipper, he had to go into the city for some business. So the practice of these ascetics who lived in the forest worshipping fire, they kept a fire burning all the time. And in that way, they thought that they were doing something very wholesome, something very beneficial. So it was important that this fire not go out. So he told this boy, his adopted son, he said, "Look after this fire. Don't let it go out. But if it does go out, if you don't pay attention and it does go out, here are some sticks, here's some firewood, and here are fire sticks that you can use to start the fire, and here's an axe that you can split up the wood. So don't let the fire go out, but if it does go out, then here are the things that you need to start it back up again." And so the ascetic goes into the forest, leaving his son behind. And his son, still being very young, didn't pay attention to the fire. He got caught up in his games. And so he came back to the house and he saw the fire's gone out. Okay, what did my father tell me to do? He said, use this firewood, use these fire sticks, use this hatchet to try and start this fire again. So what did he do? He took that firewood and he split it up. He said, okay, I'm supposed to use this firewood and this axe and these fire sticks to start this fire. So he split the wood in half. No fire started. So he split the wood again. Still no fire. And he kept splitting this wood, these logs and these fire sticks. He used the axe and he split again and again and again until all he had were little tiny pieces. But still, no fire. So he got very frustrated and he thought, okay, there must be fire in here somewhere. So he pounded them up until there was just powder, just sawdust. And then he took that dust and it blew away into the wind, right? But still, he didn't get any fire. So then his father came back and saw that the fire had gone out. And he said, son, I told you not to let the fire go out, but I gave you the things that you needed to start that fire again. I gave you the firewood, the fire sticks, and I gave you the axe. Why didn't you start the fire again? So the son explained, well, this is what I did. I cut it up, no fire. I cut them again, still no fire. I kept cutting and cutting and cutting, still no fire. And the father said, oh, that's not how you start a fire, right? You don't start it just by splitting the wood. Here. And then he showed the boy. He took the fire sticks, he rubbed them together, he got some sparks, and then in that way, he was able to use those things correctly to start the fire. So then the Venerable Bhante says, in just the same way, Prince, you are looking foolishly, senselessly, and unreasonably for another world. Prince, give up this evil viewpoint. Give it up. Do not let it cause you misfortune and suffering for a long time. So, many, many ways, this prince was trying to understand the world, but he wasn't doing it in a wise way. He hadn't heard the Blessed One's Dhamma. So, what were some of the experiments that he did? First, he told some friends, some very bad friends, who had done many bad things. He said, when you die, come back and tell me what hell is like. And did that one work? No. Why? Because he doesn't understand hell. He doesn't understand the suffering in hell. If he knew that hell was a place that you go to and you don't get out of until you experience all the results of your bad actions, then he would have known, surely, these friends aren't going to come back and tell me about this other world. He had other friends who did good things, and he wanted them to come back and tell about the heavenly realms. He thought that he could find out about them in that way. But he didn't understand just how excellent the heavenly realms were, how much pleasure there is to be had. He didn't understand that heavenly beings look down on this human world as a terrible place, as a smelly, filthy place, and they're not so anxious to come back again. Also, he didn't understand how long beings live in the heavenly worlds. He didn't even understand how long a day was in the heavenly worlds. So there was very little chance that his friends would want to come back right away and tell him about the heavenly worlds. So we also remember how the prince said, if I can't see the realm of the 33, then I'm sure it doesn't exist. Right? He thought that all the things in the world that were to be known, he could see with his own eyes. Right? But we know, having listened to the teachings of the Blessed One, that there are many parts of the world that we can't experience with our own eyes, with our ordinary eyes, with a mind that still has defilements, a mind that's still corrupted. And he thought that just because he couldn't see them, that they didn't exist. But the Venerable Bhante explained in a very simple way how just because someone doesn't have the right kind of vision, that doesn't determine whether things exist or not. So we learned about this terrible sort of research that the prince did, trying to find the soul of a living being. Right? He committed many, many bad acts, torturing these people, thinking that he would be able to see a soul escaping. But the Venerable Bhante patiently explained again and again, you're not going about this in the right way. Just like this silly young boy who thought that he could start fire by splitting firewood. Right? And his father explained, no, that's not the right way to get a fire. In the same way, the Venerable Kassapa explained to this prince again and again, you're not doing this research correctly. The Blessed One never asked us to do research like this. But still, the prince doesn't give up his view. And even at this point, the prince says, okay, now I don't want to give up these views because other people know me. I'm very famous, right? So they'll hear about my views, and they won't believe these things either. And then they'll criticize me, saying that I hold wrong views. So if I change to these things that you're telling me, then other people who also hold wrong views will criticize me. And so I don't want to be criticized by them. So in the next part of the sutta, we'll get to learn about all the explanations that the Venerable Bhante gives him for not wanting him to pay attention to these other people with wrong views, because he cares about the prince's welfare very much. Right? He's almost got him. He's almost got him there. Now he just needs to convince him not to care about what foolish people think. And then he'll be able to take up these right views and to act in accordance with these wrong views. So, having heard this excellent Dhamma, may we keep this Dhamma in mind. May we always remember the Blessed One's noble research, the way that he taught us to understand these 6 faculties, these 5 aggregates, correctly, doing the proper kind of research. May we reflect on these teachings wisely. May we put them into practice, and through the power of this merit, may we one day realize the 4 noble truths in this Gautama Buddha's dispensation. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Namo Buddhaya.